And there's more names popping up on the quarterback list when you think long term. And I'm talking about a veteran who could hit the market almost for free. There's a quiet move in the secondary with a cut right before the playoffs. There's a franchise legend speaking up and trying to pull a rival QB to Pittsburgh. And there's a huge injury update that changes the whole outlook against the Texans. What's up, Steelers Nation? I just pulled up to break all of this down for you the way we do it here. Locker room read, accountability that matches the weight of this jersey. So stick with me and let's get into it. This quarterback conversation never sleeps in Pittsburgh, and it's not fan paranoia. It's franchise reality from a team that knows it can't get caught flat-footed. And the name popping back up is Kirk Cousins, a veteran a lot of people side-eye, but one that needs cold, honest context. Aaron Rodgers has made it clear he hasn't decided anything, not retirement, not returning. And when a QB at that level talks about options, even half joking, the front office has got to widen the board immediately. The Steelers can't wake up in March without a plan. What changes everything here is Kirk Cousins' contract situation in Atlanta. The restructure sets a hard decision before March 13th. Either the Falcons keep him or trade him and lock in almost $68 million, or they cut him and eat the loss. And when a team is stuck like that, cuts usually happen. That would put Cousins on the market as a free agent, no trade cost, and probably way cheaper than people expect when they hear his name. And that's exactly where the Steelers have always known how to strike, taking advantage of inefficient markets. Let's be real. The Steelers have been stacking veteran QBs the last few years for almost nothing against the cap. Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, short-term bets to compete without wrecking the future. Cousins fits that mold perfectly. He's not a rebuild QB, not a 10-year answer, but he can be a bridge and a cheap one, which this franchise values when the draft doesn't deliver. And the 2026 draft, from what it looks like right now, isn't getting anyone excited at QB. When you compare options, Kyler Murray and Anthony Richardson would cost picks, high commitment, system changes. Cousins wouldn't. Cousins would walk in knowing he has to prove himself, no savior label, and that usually plays better in Pittsburgh. No hot market, no outside noise. He'd be a real immediate starter option, and that matters to a vet at this stage. This doesn't mean the Steelers are out on Aaron Rodgers, not at all. If Rodgers wants back, he's still priority. But big franchises work plan A, B, and C at the same time. Mason Rudolph, Will Howard, draft rookie, it's all in the mix. Cousins enters the conversation now because the cost benefit might be too good to ignore. At the end of the day, this shows the Steelers aren't in love with names, they're committed to competitiveness. If the road narrows, like Mike Tomlin loves to say, and Rodgers is off the board, Kirk Cousins could easily be the next veteran in black and gold, not for flash, but for opportunity. This move flew under the radar for a lot of people, but it says a lot about where the roster is, because when the Steelers cut a player days before the playoffs, it's not just a roster number, it's a loud vote of internal confidence. Tre Flowers came in as insurance, came in to patch a hole, and left because the hole closed. That's it. He was here 2 weeks, saw the field once, played 2 special team snaps, left 0 footprint, and that alone explains the call. The Steelers secondary became a real issue late in the season, not from lack of talent, but from lack of health. James Pierre was forced into a starting role, played well, then disappeared almost a month with injury and illness. Brandin Echols went down hurt, and the team had to scramble. Flowers entered that situation as an available body, size, minimal experience, someone to keep the room from being exposed, but now the picture changed. With Pierre and Echols back and fully practicing, the Steelers know they don't need emergency insurance anymore. That matters because it shows the staff trusts what it has going into the playoffs. Trust that the cornerback rotation is set and nobody is dressing just to fill space. In January, there's no room for that. You trust or you cut. There's another key piece here, special teams. Cutting Flowers also opens space to keep Deshaun Jameson, who was one of the most efficient players in Week 18. If you watched the game against the Ravens closely, you saw his impact as a gunner. Insane speed, instant pressure on the returner, forced fair catches, shorter field. That stuff doesn't make headlines, but it flips games, flips possessions, flips the clock. The Steelers have always valued that. When a special teams player starts owning a role like that, he earns trust fast, especially in the playoffs where field position is everything. Jameson delivered something Flowers never would, real impact, and that explains the decision. For Flowers, it's tough but realistic. Third team this season, limited snaps, no clear defensive role. At 30 years old, the league starts sending messages. He might get a call again if injuries hit because the Steelers know the profile, but right now, he's not part of the plan. This cut doesn't weaken the team, it does the opposite. It shows a healthier, clearer roster that's honest about who actually helps you win in January. This is the kind of topic that needs seriousness and a cold read of reality, because when a name like James Harrison speaks on quarterbacks, it's not just podcast talk, it's a symbolic stance from someone who understands the weight of this franchise. When he speaks directly to Joe Burrow, flashing the ring, talking about pain, talking about protecting your career, he's not thinking the Steelers are stealing the Bengals QB tomorrow. He's doing something deeper, exposing a contrast in culture, structure, and player protection. James Harrison isn't just a former player chasing clicks. He's one of the greatest defensive symbols of the modern Steelers era, someone who lived through hard locker rooms, daily accountability, non-negotiable standards. When he says the Steelers are missing one piece and looks at Joe Burrow, he's saying this team has a base, has defense, has identity, and the most important position is still open. That lines up perfectly with the current reality. Aaron Rodgers undecided, the future hanging, and a clear need to think beyond 1 year. Now let's kill the illusion. Joe Burrow to the Steelers is basically impossible right now. The Cincinnati Bengals have made it clear they have zero interest in trading him, and even if that ever changed within the division to Pittsburgh, would be the absolute last stop. That's league politics, historic rivalry, narrative control. Their own statement makes it clear there's no door, no real conversation. Anyone treating this as a real possibility is fooling themselves, but Harrison's impact isn't about possibility, it's about message. He played in Cincinnati. He knows what happens inside that building. He knows how that organization has historically handled offensive line play, QB protection, and physical wear on star players. When he says he worries about Burrow, that he hears pain in his voice, he's poking exactly at that issue, career longevity. It's a direct shot, and it hurts because it's rooted in history. This also pressures the debate in Pittsburgh, because if even a defensive icon openly says the team lacks a long-term franchise QB, that means the topic is alive inside the building. Rodgers could return, could look even better with continuity, and he said it himself. Year 2 in a system changes everything, and that's true. But nobody in there ignores the clock ticking. The Steelers will call any elite QB who becomes available. That's duty, not boldness. But they won't make emotional moves, won't mortgage the draft, won't tear down the roster for a media splash. Harrison's words are more about identity than negotiation. It's someone saying, there's structure here, there's defense here, there's accountability here, and that still attracts Joe Burrow isn't coming, period. But the message echoes because it exposes the future void at the position and reminds everyone that when the Steelers solve that equation, they're dangerous for a long time. This Mike Tomlin update doesn't pop as a headline, but inside the building is gold, because when he says nobody regressed physically after week 18, he's saying the Steelers enter the playoffs whole, no crutches, no bodies, just filling numbers. And that completely raises the standard, because when the team is healthy, the pressure goes up automatically. TJ Watt coming back and leaving the game without limitation would already change the week's tone, but it's bigger than that. He didn't just return, he impacted, intercepted a pass, created points, showed up in a big moment, and proved the lung issue is behind him. That's not normal, that's elite. And when you add Alex Highsmith and Nick Herbig healthy, the Steelers face the Houston Texans with a pass rush rotation that can stress any offensive line, and it's not just Watt. Getting James Pierre and Brandin Echols back completely stabilizes the secondary. No more patchwork, no more guessing. Everyone slides back into the right role, and that's critical in the playoffs where one alignment mistake becomes a touchdown. That stability also explains recent roster decisions, because the team knows exactly who its corners are for January. On offense, Calvin Austin III showed in Week 18 why he matters. Even without DK Metcalf, he stepped up when needed, led in yards, scored the game-winning touchdown, and gave Aaron Rodgers a real option. With Metcalf back, Austin doesn't have to carry weight that isn't his. He goes back to being the complementary speed piece, and that raises the unit's efficiency. Isaac Sumalo may not have dominated like other weeks, but he was solid in protection, and that's what matters now. Against the Texans defense with 47 sacks on the season, with Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson bringing pressure nonstop, having a veteran guard next to a developing left tackle like Dylan Cook is huge to keep the game plan alive. This medical update doesn't guarantee a win, but it kills excuses. The Steelers enter the playoffs healthy, complete, and knowing exactly what they have. From here on out, it's execution, reads, and nerve. Now, the comfortable part of the conversation is over, because everything that needed to line up, lined up, healthy roster, active leadership, future options map, total focus on the present. The Steelers don't enter these playoffs as the most talented team in the AFC, but they enter as one of the most self-aware, knowing who they are, what they can do, and what they cannot mess up. No surprises, no improvisation, no ready-made excuses. If they lose, it'll be because they executed poorly. If they advance, it'll be because they upheld the standard this franchise demands in January. And that's exactly where I want to hear from you. Do you trust this group to handle the pressure when the game tightens up? Or do you think it falls short again in the clutch? Speak up, debate it, demand more, because it's win or go home now and nobody's hiding.